changes that could have major implications for its political future. With 171 votes in favour and only one abstention, members passed amendments that extend presidential terms from 5 to 7 years, abolish limits on how many times a president may run, and grant more power to the ruling party. They introduce a deputy prime minister, lengthen parliament's term, and lift immunity for government officials in cases of financial or economic crime. Now, the bill now heads to the Senate before final adoption. To help us unpack what all of this means for Chad, we're now joined by Associate Professor Thomas Mandrup of Stellenbosch University, as well as the Royal Danish Defence College. Prof, always good to talk to you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning, Peter, and thank you for having me, and good morning to the listeners.
So how significant are these constitutional amendments in terms of reshaping Chad's political landscape? This scrapping of limits is a theme that we see quite often across the continent.
It is quite significant, and it's also indication that the Idris family, Mahatma, which is the current of the son and now the current president, and all that it strengthened his role and control of the state and control of Chad. It's again sliding away from any kind of democratic order. We all know they started with the coup when his father died, and now we had the fraud elections last year, and now we see the parliament being a rubber stamp basically for the extension of his reign, and he can now sit there for as long as he wants, because he has removed the time limits on terms as well. So it's quite problematic.
So with the National Assembly vote, 171 for, one abstention, what does that tell us about the state of opposition and checks and balances that may exist or not exist in Chad today?
Basically, that it doesn't exist, and again, that the whole, introduction of a vice president as well is also highly problematic. It's typically something we see in other African countries as well, where you can balance, for instance, ethnic divisions by giving ethnic groups certain kind of influence by introducing this kind of deputy role, and which of course means that again the governing party can control the political space, and Parliament is basically, as I said before, a rubber stamp, and they have just accepted this, so it is really just an illustration of how bad the political environment in Chad is at the moment.
Do you think that they're perhaps not reading the room with this family dynasty type scenario playing out? I mean, if we look at Gabon and what's happened there, could this be a precursor perhaps to some instability? The more they try to hold on and cement, that actually they're fueling a fire.
It could be, and again, we always do the bets. Who's the next coup in the Central and or Sahel or West Africa? Chad could be one, of course. We've seen several attempts over the last 10, 15 years. Mahatma himself was also a coup when he took over from his dad, suspended the constitution, all that. It is a quite dangerous game they're playing. But again, the Chadian political system has been like that for years. And again, as I mentioned, we've had, rebel groups moving in against the Idris family on several occasions. We've had France bailing out the previously, so we've had the whole Sagawa issue on the issue with the former President Bashir in Sudan. The whole skirmish between the two, all that. So you go back the last 15, 20 years, you've seen this on and off. And I tried to indicate before, I see this political move as part of that kind of ploy, where you try to introduce a deputy, where you, for instance, can introduce your political opponents and give them some kind of part of the pie, basically, by giving them political influence, by introducing this kind of role, and that maybe that can make it easier for Mahatma to actually continue his role, the control of power and control of the state. But again, it's a dangerous game, and it's Chad is notoriously unstable. And now also, of course, they are making distance to France, pressuring the French out, started speaking to the Russians. So we have a lot of indications, things that are moving in interesting, maybe wrong direction, to put it that way.
It's got to go to the Senate now. Are we likely to see the same scenario, a rubber stamping process?
It seems like that. Yeah, it is. I'm not seeing that any political players at this stage is going to change that. The problem, of course, for Africa and the African Union is that Chad has been a key player in peacekeeping operations and anti-radicalization and anti-jihadi operations in Sahel, because of its relatively strong army. It's also, if Chad is unstable or moves in the wrong direction, let's put it that way, together with the other AES countries, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, and all that, then of course it can create instability in the whole region. At the same time, we have notoriously unstable Sudan on the other side. So Chad is located quite strategically, quite in a very important place, where you've got Libya on top, you've got Central African Republic on the bottom, you got Sudan to the east, and then you got Niger to the west, and all that. So it's really a country that plays that key role, and then therefore instability in Chad is dangerous for the whole region, basically. That's why it's quite important that that someone is trying to assist Chad in trying to move in a proper direction. But again, the political system in Chad has been unstable for years, and this is just the last edition on that.
All right, well, let's wait and see what happens in the coming months. But thanks so much indeed for joining us and your thoughts on the issue today. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. That's Professor Thomas Mandrup, who's an Associate Professor at Stellenbosch University here in South Africa, as well as the Danish Defence College, speaking to us about these constitutional amendments in Chad. It's time now for your news.